Are we already seeing pieces of concrete on the track bed? Are we already seeing that kind of deterioration?
Yeah, no question. I mean, we have already experienced issues with the high voltage cables that pass through the bench walls. We've had concrete that has fallen down onto the tracks that we need to then go in and remove. We have water intrusion issues. We have to send an ice patrol down through the tunnel. And all of these things, again, we only have, you can see, just 2 tracks here. So anything that we need to do in the tunnel here, and we're entering the tunnel now, anything we need to do in the way of maintenance immediately creates a delay and disruption for all of these passengers. Here it is, the North River Tunnel, 108 years old, built by the Pennsylvania Railroad, opened in 1910. This is the same thing. This is how it looked then, and it's how it looks now, right? With much more deterioration. A couple things I want to point out. Number one, you see the bench walls on either side. These are the bench walls that we keep talking about. The flood water, the sandy salt water came in here. It inundated these bench walls, and through these bench walls pass high voltage cables that power not only the trains that go through here, but the entire New York terminal complex. And we've had water intrusion issues, and those high voltage cables have been failing with increasing frequency since Sandy.
So is this causing delays even now?
Major delays, yeah. Anytime we have, last week we had, we just had all that really cold weather. We have water intrusion in here, and we get icicles that drip down onto the catenary, and so that can cause an outage. But before it causes an outage, we have to send in guys to go clear the ice. And again, because there's just 2 tracks, if we close one of them in order to do that kind of maintenance, it causes a cascade of delays. 450 trains a day, 200,000 people. You can see some of the water as we pass through here. This is the Weehawken shaft. You can see where we're talking about these kinds of issues.
I mean, here's a question: if we don't get funding for this soon, then we can't start building the new tunnel soon, which means we can't close and rehab this tunnel soon. What's the effective life of this tunnel?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, no one can say with certainty how long this tunnel can last. I mean, it's already been 108 years old, right? So we don't want to find out is really the bottom line. And that's why we call this the most urgent project in the country. This is an area where 10% of the nation's gross domestic product is created. It links 20% of the GDP that's created on the Northeast Corridor.
You've talked about the bench wall. Talk to me about the track bed. There's going to be some important renovations that happen.
I'm glad you asked. That's the other really important piece here. So in addition to all the concrete issues that we have, both on the bench wall and inside the tunnel, the track bed is built on rock. It's ballasted track, which is never how you would build a tunnel today. This was, again, built in 1910. That has caused major drainage issues and major stray current issues. And so we need to, when we rehab the tunnel, we're going to replace that with what's called direct fixation track, where you take the rocks out and basically put the track directly on concrete. And that's a much more efficient, better way to do it.
There's been a lot of talk about the possibility that this rehab could look like the L-train tunnel MTA rehab. Can we do this the same way we're thinking about doing the L-train?
Yeah, so there are a couple significant, important distinctions between the L-train project and this project, right? We're definitely interested, and we're looking at the L-train solution, the L-train project, and seeing if it applies here. And it might, right? If it does, it would definitely, it could very well help us to replace the bench walls in maybe a more efficient way. Maybe it saves us some time and some money, But it will not, and this is an important point, it will not negate the need to close the tunnel for long-term rehab, mostly because the track bed here needs to be ripped up and replaced, and that's not work you can do on nights and weekends, right? We need to go from ballasted track, as you see here, these rocks, and put down concrete and make direct fixation track.
Beyond the direct fixation track, though, what is attractive about the L-train strategy and possibly using some of it here?
Well, if it's going to save us time and money, then that's attractive, right? I mean, if replacing, like, again, replacing the bench wall is just one aspect of the rehab work that we need to do here. We need to replace the track bed. We have a lot of rehab. Basically, we need to gut the tunnel and essentially rebuild it from the inside.
Do we even know how high the water came up during
definitely.
Sandy?
Yes, absolutely.
Where did it come up?
You can actually see the water line. As you know, it's a little hard to see now, but a little further into the tunnel, you can actually see the water line. Thank you. The time, it came up above the top of the bench wall. In some places, both tubes of
so
the
it
tunnel
came up above. This is the bench wall right here. It came up above that.
Yes.
So we're talking
millions of gallons of salt water.
We're talking 4 feet, 5 feet.
Yes, 6 feet, I believe, actually. But yes.
Wow.
So here you see, we're on the New York side now of the tunnel. You see the two tunnel portals, right? We just came out of the south tube, and this is the north tube. Up here, up on the top right, there's a ramp going down from the Long Island Railroad's west side yard, and that's where the water in Sandy came down and turned the corner and entered the tunnel. To the south here, just a little bit off to the south, is where the new tunnel is going to come in. This is where the new tunnel is going to link up to Penn Station. Basically, as you know, it sort of sweeps to the south and then comes in here. It'll connect into these tracks to connect directly into the Penn Station platforms, which we're coming up on right now.
This is back to the big, broad policy question. What does Amtrak want to say to the Trump administration right now?
Well, I mean, look, the Trump administration has been, we've worked very closely with them on the EIS for the tunnel. We say to them what we've said to everybody else. I mean, this is the most urgent infrastructure project in the country. It's 20% of the nation's GDP at stake. And I think they understand that this is really not something that is, in dispute. This needs to move forward. It needs to move forward quickly. And every day that we delay increases the risk to the nation's economy.